All right, so if you've ever had a job in sales, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That constant pressure, right? The quotas hanging over your head. The feeling that you're in this high-stakes game where every single call is about one thing, closing the deal. It's a world that can be, well, incredibly stressful.
But what if I told you the secret to actually selling more was to just stop trying to sell? Yeah, I know, it sounds completely backward, a total paradox, but hang with me for a second here. We're about to unpack a really revolutionary idea that flips the whole concept of sales completely on its head. And to do that, we first have to get a handle on the system we're all trying to escape.
So, first things first, let's take a hard look at the system we're trying to break away from. We'll call it the old playbook. You know, that traditional, high-pressure approach that's pretty much defined sales for decades.
Does any of this look familiar? I bet it does. It's the traditional sales gauntlet. It's all about those aggressive one-call closes, sticking to a rigid script, and using high-pressure tactics, like those fake today-only deals. The goal here isn't really collaboration. It's more like a psychological game of chess where the only thing that matters is winning, getting that deal no matter what it takes. It's totally exhausting for the seller, and let's be honest, often deeply uncomfortable for the buyer.
Now, you might be thinking, hey, but mastering this old playbook, that's the key to success, right? And for a perfect example of that, we really need to talk about a guy named Paul Atherton. By any traditional metric, he wasn't just good at this game, he was an absolute master. But the success he achieved, well, it came at a staggering personal cost.
Just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, in one single year, back in 2012, the sales team he was leading brought in over £102 million in sales. I mean, that is an incredible number. He had it all, the money, the fancy cars, the big house, literally everything he thought he was chasing. But here's the twist. Despite all that external success, on the inside, he felt completely empty. In his own words, he said, "I was left with everything I've achieved, not having worked in terms of fulfillment. I had fallen for the wrong dream." The chase had brought him everything except happiness. This relentless pursuit of the next deal, the next target, it just pushed him to the absolute brink. We're talking 18-hour days, 7 days a week. The immense stress led to complete burnout, workaholism, and eventually a dependence on alcohol that actually landed him in rehab. The old playbook had won him the world, but it had cost him himself.
So it was right there, during this crisis, that he had this profound realization. A major turning point that would completely redefine his approach, not just to sales, but to his entire life. He shifted his whole philosophy from selling to serving.
And yeah, this slide just lays it out so clearly. The old way was all about me, my goals, my quota, and it was all driven by this fear of failure. But the new way? It's all about them, the client's needs, their problems, and it's driven by a genuine purpose to actually help. It's a huge shift from a mindset of manipulation to one of trust and collaboration. This whole new approach is built on one simple but super powerful idea. The financial reward you get is in direct proportion to the amount of service you give. It's not about ignoring money or success. It's about reordering the equation. Service becomes the cause, and the financial reward, that's just the natural effect.
And you know what's wild? The outcome was the complete opposite of what you'd expect. You'd think that by being less focused on his own goals, his numbers would dip, but nope. When he let go of the ego, the fear, the anxiety, and just focused on serving the person in front of him, his results absolutely skyrocketed.
Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy behind it all. But how does this actually work in, a real sales meeting? Let's take a look at the new playbook in action.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. Instead of launching into some canned, scripted pitch and just talking at the client, this new approach starts with a simple conversation. The whole goal is to immediately switch the dynamic from a monologue to a dialogue, putting the client's agenda front and center from the very first second.
This technique is called co-creating the agenda, and it is just so powerful. You start by asking for their goals. You respect their time. You build the meeting plan with them, not for them. Right away, they feel in control, they feel heard, and they feel respected. You stop being a salesperson pushing a process, and you become a collaborator working towards a shared goal. And this brings us to a really important distinction. The old playbook was all about building rapport, trying to get people to like you. But think about it. People sometimes tell little white lies to people they like just to avoid being awkward. The truth is, people buy from people they trust. And this collaborative opening immediately starts building a foundation of trust, which is infinitely more valuable.
And this whole serving first idea, it trickles down into every part of the conversation. So instead of pitching a long list of product features, you're asking smart questions to find their specific pain points. Instead of telling your company's whole life story, you're asking what criteria they use to choose a partner. And you're not creating false urgency with some fake deal, you're helping them uncover their real urgency for solving their problem.
So what's the payoff? What really happens when you fully commit to this new playbook of serving instead of selling? Well, the results are transformative, not just for your numbers, but for your entire experience of doing your job.
Well, for starters, when your main goal is to serve, the fear of rejection, it just evaporates. You're not trying to get something from them, you're trying to give something to them. Objections often just dissolve before they even come up because you've already addressed all their concerns. You end up building real, authentic relationships. The desperate chasing and begging stops, and ultimately, you get far better, more sustainable results without all that crippling stress.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Whether you're in sales, you're an entrepreneur, or you're just trying to persuade someone in your daily life, what would change for you if your main goal wasn't to win the argument or close the deal, but simply to serve the person right in front of you? The answer to that? Well, it might just revolutionize everything.